It is 2:14 in the morning. You came here 2 hours ago to set an alarm. You are still here. Your eyes are dry, your neck aches, and underneath the scrolling is a quiet, guilty feeling you cannot quite explain. You know you should stop. You may not even be enjoying it anymore, but the next swipe still feels easier than putting the phone down. Most advice says this is happening because your brain has received too much dopamine. So you delete the apps. You remove entertainment. You try to become comfortable with boredom. And sometimes it works, for a few days. Then the work becomes difficult again. The pressure returns, and your hand reaches for the same escape. Because the phone may not be the real reward. Sometimes, the reward is the relief of not doing what feels difficult. And if that is true, your dopamine detox may be solving the wrong problem. Before we go further, what do people actually mean by a dopamine detox? Usually they mean temporarily stepping away from things that are easy to overuse for quick stimulation or gratification. Social media, short-form videos, gaming, junk food, or other habits that keep pulling your attention back. You might delete apps, turn off notifications, put the phone somewhere harder to reach, or deliberately spend time doing slower activities instead. But despite the name, you are not literally detoxing dopamine from your brain. Dopamine is not a toxin you can flush out, and that distinction matters because it changes what a detox can actually fix. The popular story sounds convincing. Your phone gives you immediate stimulation. Difficult work gives you delayed results. The phone offers novelty every few seconds. The task may offer nothing for hours. The phone asks for one thumb. The task asks for concentration, uncertainty, and the possibility of failing. So when you remove the phone, working can become easier. That part is real. But the conclusion people draw from it is often wrong. Removing a distraction does not prove you were detoxing from dopamine. It proves the distraction became harder to reach. You changed the environment. You changed the number of interruptions. You changed what was easiest to do next. That can be useful, but it is not the same as biologically resetting your brain. Removing the trigger may change behavior. That does not mean dopamine has been removed, cleansed, or reset. To understand what is actually happening, we need to separate three things the internet often blends together: pleasure, motivation, and learning. Dopamine is not simply the chemical of pleasure. It is involved in several systems: learning, motivation, movement, attention, and deciding whether something may be worth the effort. But here's an easier way to understand one of its jobs. You pick up your phone just to check the time. You notice your friend has sent you a video. You tap it, and it is much funnier than you expected. That difference matters. Your brain expected one thing and got something better. Researchers call that gap a reward prediction error. Think of it simply. Your brain makes a prediction. Then reality gives it feedback. There are three basic possibilities: better than expected, about what you expected, or worse than expected. Dopamine neurons help carry that learning signal. When an outcome is better than predicted, the dopamine signal can briefly rise. When the outcome is roughly what was predicted, there is little new prediction error. And when an expected reward disappoints you, the signal can dip. The important part is what happens next. Your brain updates what it expects in the future. So after that first hilarious video, you swipe. The next video is not nearly as funny. But now you know something interesting might be one swipe away. So you swipe again. And with every result, your expectations keep changing. That is one important part of dopamine's role, learning what may be worth pursuing again. But dopamine also contributes to another decision you make all day long. Is this worth the effort? Imagine you are comfortable at home and suddenly want your favorite ramen. The restaurant is 20 minutes away. Outside, it is raining. Now your brain has to weigh two things. How valuable does that ramen feel? And how much effort will it take to get it? If the expected reward feels worth the walk, you grab your jacket. If it doesn't, you stay on the couch. Dopamine is one of the systems involved in those effort and reward decisions. But this is where another internet shortcut goes wrong. Low motivation does not automatically mean low dopamine. Sometimes you don't start because you've been working 14-hour days and you're exhausted. Sometimes the report stays blank because you're afraid it won't be good enough. Sometimes you open the garage, see 50 boxes, and genuinely have no idea where to begin. And sometimes you're sick, and fatigue makes everything else feel less important. All of those situations can look like the same thing. I don't feel motivated. But they are not necessarily the same problem. And easy activities do not contain one special kind of dopamine, while meaningful work contains another. The important idea is simpler. Your brain keeps learning from what happens next. So the question we really need to ask is not, how much dopamine do I have? So what happens immediately after you escape? The pressure is there. You check the phone. For a few seconds, your attention moves somewhere else. The task is still unfinished. Nothing outside you has improved. But inside, you feel different. That small shift is why procrastination can become so confusing. Sometimes the escape is not valuable because of what it gives you. It is valuable because of what it lets you stop feeling for a moment. And when that works, your system learns something useful. When friction rises, there is a fast exit nearby. That is the beginning of the escape loop. A difficult cue appears. Friction rises. An easy exit is available. That exit might be checking your phone, grabbing a snack, cleaning something that suddenly feels urgent, or simply doing anything that feels easier than staying with the thing in front of you. The exit changes your state immediately. The task remains. And when that pattern works often enough, the same kind of escape becomes easier to reach for again. This does not mean every escape follows one identical dopamine mechanism. Dopamine is only one part of a wider system involving learning, attention, effort, avoidance, and emotion regulation. But it explains the pattern we actually care about. The escape changed your state before it changed your situation. And that creates the next problem. If you remove the obvious escape, does the pattern disappear? Or does it simply find another door? Removing an easy exit can absolutely make distraction harder. That matters. You interrupted one automatic route. But here is the useful question. What happens next? Suppose the phone goes away, and a few minutes later you are checking email, opening another tab, looking for food, or doing something strangely productive that is not the task you meant to do. That tells you something different. The phone may have been the easiest exit, but it was not necessarily the reason you wanted to leave. This gives you a simple test. Remove the easiest escape and watch what your behavior does next. If the urge weakens, access was probably a major part of the problem. But if the urge simply changes direction, you have learned something more important. The object may not be the whole problem. Sometimes the problem was access, and sometimes access was only the easiest door. Remove that door, and your behavior may show you there were others. So now you know what to watch for. Not the entire hour you lost, the moment you are about to leave. Notice the urge to do something else. That tiny moment is the part you can redesign. Don't tell yourself to finish the whole task. Do something small enough to keep moving while the discomfort is still there. Make the next action visible. Write a few more sentences. Read for another 10 minutes. Work for 10 more minutes on the current task when you feel the urge to escape. Name the next step. Then decide. You are not promising to stay for an hour. You are not forbidding yourself from leaving. You are creating one step between I feel discomfort and I escape. The old sequence was task, discomfort, escape. Now try task, discomfort, one deliberate action, then a conscious decision. The point is not that 10 minutes magically makes the urge disappear. The point is that you stayed long enough to create a different response before deciding. That is the part a detox cannot do for you. You have to practice the decision itself. And sometimes you will still leave. You will get distracted. Walk away. Lose 10 minutes, maybe longer. That does not mean the system failed. When you notice that you left, return for 2 minutes. Not because 2 minutes magically fixes your attention, because it makes returning easier than negotiating with yourself about another hour. Open the task. Put your hands back where they were. Do one small action. Then decide again. The evidence you are building is not, I never get distracted. It is, I noticed I left, and I returned. That is discipline, not perfect control, the ability to interrupt and come back. A dopamine detox can make escape harder to reach, but it cannot practice the return for you. Notice the urge. Create a pause. Return when you leave. Then choose again. If this changed how you think about distraction, like the video. For practical systems to master your mind, habits, and behavior, subscribe to Hidden Discipline. And tell me in the comments, what pulls you away from important work most often?